Banshees of Inisherin. I went and saw at the London Film Festival, and there were a number of people involved in the production there, including one guy who was way too overexcited and kept like yelling stuff. And you know, there's that bit where he's like, I finished a piece of music. He's like, oh, you did? Oh, that's grand. What's it called? The Banshees of Inisherin. And one bloke went, whoa! Like it was the fucking Avengers. Yeah!
Eat Bombay.
Banshees. Hello, and welcome to One Good Thing, the podcast that's all about 2020 you.
Oh.
I'm Paul Anus.
Oh, nice. I'm Paul Bum.
Oh, what a pun. That was a pun, everyone. If you get the other meaning, write in.
It's a pun if you say it's a pun. And I say it's a pun.
We are a third of the way through the new year, and you know what that means. Time to review the best films of a year everyone's trying to forget. It's 2022's 2022.
Do you have to specify which year that is now? You can't just say the year everyone's trying to forget.
Yes, most of the ones we've had recently. To be fair, 2022 was less, please, for the love of God, let me not think about it again for the rest of my life than the previous two.
A lot of good things happened.
A lot of good things happened. And we're going to talk about that in general. We're going to do our top 10 lists. We're going to look at the Patreon lists and, you know, general people lists as well. You know, non-Patreon
Our lists of people that we rank. For your enjoyment, listeners.
We're going to rank everyone who's not a Patreon. If you don't want to be ranked, get in the Patreon.
For the love of God, get on board.
We're going to have a little look at the highest grossing films of the year. Ooh. All in some desperate attempt to find some kind of closure. So, yeah.
And it's not coming.
No, absolutely not. Nor should it. Nor should it ever. The years are entirely arbitrary, and the only thing that really distinguishes the passage of time is you and your efforts.
Yeah.
So.
And how old you look now.
Absolutely. How many grey hairs you got growing out your dick? We've all got those, right?
I've got 3. Right out the dig.
I did get pubes first, you know. They went grey first before anything.
Oh, really?
Had.
Yeah. The context-free, the context-independent version of that sentence, I got pubes first. Born bald.
I got pubes before you, you know. Never fucking forget that.
I got hairs on my balls before I got hairs on my head, son.
That was the weirdest baby you ever saw. But yes.
My mum always said I could walk before I could crawl. Well, my mum said. Thanks for sharing that, Dad.
It was a big year, 2022.
What's a big year?
I started my degree.
Oh, yeah?
Yep. That's pretty much it for me. Yourself? We all met up. We all met up in England.
We all met up in England. Yeah.
Even the England part wasn't that bad.
Even the England part. We went to lovely Matlock. Yeah. We found a nice place in cummy old England.
Nice cummy old cottage.
It was you barely smell the cum. It was lovely weather. Trying not to think about the implications of that. It was lovely weather. And, you know, I'm going to look a gift horse in the mouth, even if it is a world-ending one.
The rain was only at 45 degrees, not actual vertical.
Not actual lethal angles. I started up a band called Lethal Angles.
Yep, that was good. Very well received.
That was very well received. Short-lived, but more love for it.
You started it here in the UK, so you just moved thousands of miles away from the rest of the band.
And there's no one else in the band, but I left the idea there in the UK. I moved to mostly podcast editing as a job.
Oh,
which is pretty wild.
Yeah, it is.
And I now do 50% of my podcast editing is paid. So
wow,
that's nice.
Luxury.
Yeah,
statistics I can only dream of, mate.
Oh God, I feel like I'm grateful for everyone else that got me to this position. And what else? Oh, I've drunk an awful lot of coffee.
Yep, in 2022.
Yep,
that was
pretty good. And all those other things, Paul. All those other things.
Yeah, all those other things that happened, which we can all feel happy about. But we're not here to talk about any of those.
No. Oh, thank God.
We're gonna get into cinema, and this felt like the year that the cinematic experience kind of came back. And I think that's reflected in our top 10s and in the highest grossing movies list we'll come to. But total box office revenue in the UK doubled from 2021, approaching the yearly average of the 2010s, which is a pretty consistent number throughout. So,
is that just because of Avatar: The Way of Water, though, Paul?
Yeah, it could well be entirely single-handedly because of Avatar: The Way of Water. But hey, whatever gets them in. And when they come in, they'll see a trailer for Rye Lane. And then
come in for Avatar.
Flow from there.
Stay
for Rye Lane.
Yeah. They've got to wait, but they'll be all right.
Ooh, the Pope's Exorcist. I gotta come back in 4 months for that.
Vive le cinema.
C'est magnifique.
There is a theme. I don't know if you've noticed a theme in your top 10, Paul, but there's a definite theme in mine, and I wonder if the listeners will figure it out as we go along.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mine, pretty consistent, just sort of...
they're good. That's the theme.
Good, but like big visual kind of things. Like there's a lot of amazing cinematography, kind of cinematic experiences going on.
100%.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah. And I look at the list from 2021, and I think maybe my top 6 were stronger last year, but that might just be the benefit of it having sat for longer, so I can see things like Licorice Pizza and think, oh, fuck yeah. You know, I'll probably feel the same way this time next year about that. But this year, my top 30 is generally stronger, I think, because I could happily take any 10 of these and call that my top 10 films of the year, and it would be a great, like, list to go up against other years for me.
Interesting. I feel like
very happy with this.
You have had saying you've had more time isn't necessarily the right way of phrasing it, but you've dedicated more time to watching cinema this year than I have.
True.
I suppose one of the big things in 2022 was getting to grips with my mental health, and some of that did unfortunately mean watching a few fewer movies than usual.
Yeah.
So my top 30, I love every single one of them, and look, they're all fantastic. My top 10 is... There was only a couple of things I had to really try and wiggle about there. I was pretty happy with my top 10 as soon as I had seen each of these movies.
Yeah.
Same. But there's a lot of good in that top 10 and in the top 30. I can't wait to just talk about how much I loved these films. If we're talking cinematography and just cinematic experience.
Yeah.
A lot of my reviews of these movies are going to be...
Oh, look at that. Couple of notes before we get in. As always, there are a few films that, we haven't gone round to, largely for availability reasons, I have to say.
Oh, God, it's been so hard in Australia. It's just such a dearth of just non-English speaking movies.
Oh, Christ, no, it's been absolutely impossible with release dates this year. Last year, we were confident enough to do the episode 10 weeks earlier than we usually do in March.
Jesus.
Is that tally? Well, we did it in 10 episodes earlier. And there were only 2 movies that I felt that we hadn't seen that I ought to have. And that was Coda, which ended up, getting Best Picture.
Yeah.
And Bergman Island. Saw Bergman Island. Really liked it. Probably wouldn't have made the top 30, but liked it a lot. Didn't see Coda.
Okay.
The consensus generally seems to be... I don't know why Coda doesn't interest me. Possibly because, weirdly, for a Best Picture winner, I feel like there was zero marketing behind it. I didn't see a trailer for Coda.
Yeah, interesting. I still haven't seen Coda. The problem is, I tried to get around to it, and then I looked at my list of 2022 movies that I needed to watch.
Yeah.
And better watch these.
You move on, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's hard.
But I'm really annoyed that I didn't get to see this year Joanna Hogg's The Eternal Daughter or Kelly Reichardt's Showing Up, because those are 2 of my favourite directors working at the moment, but neither have been released here in the UK yet. Why? Sexism.
That's it.
That's exactly why.
That's the only reason I can think of, or I'm willing to think of. I didn't get to see Alcaraz. It ended up not being available to me. Same with Joyland, which I really wanted to see.
Oh God, it's good. Those, we'll talk more about those soon.
Yeah. I wish I'd been able to make the time for Babylon. I know it's been very divisive.
Yeah, that was interesting.
But I'm always quite affectionate. I feel quite fondly towards ambitious movies, and I think that could have been something that I'd have been into. But it is what it is. It's when I look at my top 10, I'm really happy that I get to showcase a couple of these movies, and in some cases, I'm very surprised that they are so high up in my top 10. So it's I'm very excited.
I think so. One last thing before we get into those, which is there are a couple of honorable mentions for even my top 30.
Okay.
Movies that, some of these are ridiculous, they're not in my top 30. They were in my top 30 for so long, but in the end, I'm here without Triangle of Sadness, The Woman King, Corsage, Living, Vortex, Flux Gourmet, Resurrection, and 3,000 Years of Longing. All amazing. Cool. All could have made the list. All could have been argued to have been in the list, but I just enjoyed 30 movies more. Yeah. And we'll hear more about that
No offense.
later.
So you did like Living?
Yeah, I loved Living. Living was so much more than just a companion piece for Ikaru.
Yes.
Considering how similar the plot structure is, I thought Stephen Woolley really found interesting ways to film it. I thought Bill Nighy was amazing. There's a heartbreaking sequence where he sings an old folk song.
Yes.
In a pub.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
Yeah. I remember. I mentioned it to you before you'd seen it, and I said I think it's worth a watch. But I couldn't tell if you'd. I couldn't tell if you'd be put off by the sentimental final scene.
That's right. I remember you saying it, but no, that final scene was like the closest scene to Ikaru. Like the movie ends in a very similar way. Well, the whole movie is very similar, but
it was just something about the way it was shot at the end. I was just thinking, I'm sure there's a better way of of doing that. But I loved the movie for the most part. Bill Nighy was amazing, and I really enjoyed what it brought to the table by looking at the British of like the British equivalent of the Japanese salaryman, or the Japanese like the reserved.
And if anyone was going to bring that out, it was going to be Kazuo Ishiguro, who has like a foot in each.
Yeah, true. I mean, he did Remains of the Day, so
absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, the Menu almost made it in.
The Menu's great.
Just very fun. Vesper, I'm ashamed. Not ashamed. Unfortunately, it didn't get in. Visually, it's stunning. It's just they just did so well with such a tiny budget. It's this British sci-fi sort of post-apocalyptic tale, and visually there's nothing quite like it. Just when a movie with a very small budget just manages to do incredible things in inventive ways. Yeah. And it's got Eddie Marsan in it as well, so there you go.
Oh, I like Eddie Marsan.
Living very awesome, very, very nearly made it in, and and also Velvet Queen was a very interesting documentary.
Interesting.
Yes.
There were two movies I didn't get around to seeing actually, and I'm grouping together in my head because they both involve posters with women looking tense on the poster, and it's Steven Soderbergh's new movie Kimmy, with I want to say Zoe Kravitz, but I might be wrong, and then Emily the Criminal with Audrey Plaza, both of which
yes
looked very good, but I just did not get around to them.
No. Such is the way. You watched a lot of films, Paul.
Such is life.
Tell everyone how many films you watched last week.
4 a day.
Yeah.
I had to watch many films. But hey, let's talk about some of them. Paul, tell me about your number 10.
All right, my number 10. Number 10 is Goran Stolevsky's You Won't Be Alone. So, a movie set in 19th century Macedonia, and a young girl. If we follow a young girl from imprisonment to transformation into a witch, due to a deal that her mother makes with said witch, and how she comes to be turned into a witch and slips between bodies in this isolated village. Yeah. It's a horror. It's my it's my literary horror token for this year. But it's a horror with some very confronting violence. But essentially, this is a story about this girl who's kept from the world for 16 years, finally learning what it is to live. I had the thought during that this is the Terrence Malick movie I wanted to see after The Tree of Life, but never quite came out because it has impeccable cinematography. Incredibly well observed performances and shots that feel like insight into these characters that mean something, and these stunningly beautiful monologues that are nothing short of poetic. I found myself marveling at some of them, and they each of them just said something so vital about what it was to experience something for the first time, or to like fully realize something. There is a notable appearance from Noomi Rapace, but she's by no means the standout performance, because every lead I think is incredible. She's every single one of them stands out. That is, Also, Macedonia being both the setting and Stilevski's place of birth before emigrating to Australia, it does feel like a deeply personal movie, but it's told in these grand, sometimes otherworldly ways, leaning heavily on the gruesome folk tales of Eastern Europe and Eastern and Southern Europe. And aside from all this, it's so constantly surprising in its ability to find beauty in a world of abject, feudal, patriarchal cruelty, and it locates and articulates the precious and special within it, and in doing so it gives you the sense of saying something sincere and unique about the human experience, and how fraught familial relationships can be stretched and even relied on, and the meaning you have to make for yourself within all of that. It's such a beautifully human movie, at the same time as having some really vividly effective body horror. But it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful.
It really is. And you're absolutely right on the sort of Eastern European folklore aspect, because there was a 2017 fantasy horror film called November, which was Estonian, and it had a very similar vibe in terms of how the kind of mythical and fantastical elements work. Regarding Terrence Malick, did you ever see A Hidden Life? The one about the German conscientious objector.
Yes, I did actually.
Okay, yeah, because this really put me in mind of that, the sort of idyllic pictures of like farming life.
Yeah,
If you cut an hour out of that movie and made it a bit more focused, then you might get something close to You'll Not Be Alone. But no, it's just a stunningly insightful film about the human experience, and it did make it hard to market, because yes, even the trailer was sort of 50% folk horror movie and 50% Terrence Malick style life-affirming experience thing.
And it was the trailer that finally sold me on it, actually, because after you saw it and really liked it, and Nell really wanted to see it. Nell is big into European folk tales and things like that. And I was kind of into it, and I thought, I don't know. And then seeing the trailer, I realized that, this is exactly my kind of movie. Yeah.
I think after I saw it, I sent you a message. I'm just looking now to see if
you did, yeah.
I can find it. I think I sent a message that was just something like, "You're gonna want to see.
Yes,
you won't be alone."
Yeah, and Goran Stilevski's next movie is coming out in Australia soon. Of an Age, it's completely different, about a young, like a younger guy who falls in love with a slightly older guy, and they meet up again after several years. Completely different contemporary setting, and very excited to see that as well. Hope Derek Cianfrancis his way around.
I just found my message to you. I can add You Will Not Be Alone to your pile. Ostensibly a folk horror, but it's not scary. It's just icky.
Yeah, it is.
I think
icky.
That's fair enough. It's just icky.
It is icky. I think I'd have come out of it feeling very wrong, if not for all the really beautiful life-affirming stuff in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, my number 10, and also a horror film. This one's not icky, it's just scary. It's number 10, it's Skinamarink.
In this house, in this house, in this house.
handily one of the most frightening films I've ever seen, and unfortunately one that works significantly better in a cinema where I found myself actually avoiding looking at the screen. I say unfortunately because Shudder now have it, and it's unlikely to... Hopefully it will play, but they did this sort of arbitrary streaming service 1 week in cinemas kind of deal.
Oh, God. Okay.
Which is a shame. I hope that opens up and it gets into cinemas again, because Jesus Christ. It's the story of 2 children who one night find that all the doors and windows have disappeared from their home, and their parents are acting strangely, and that's pretty much it. It's hard to describe the style of the film. It's an experimental movie where the footage is incredibly grainy, shot digitally, but looking like old VHS footage even, but, ostensibly film. The camera is largely static, at strange angles to imitate a sort of childlike perspective, low angles looking up kind of thing. Naturally lit by light sources within the home, such as television screens or lamps, and with the effect that the brightness has absolutely been cranked to the point of distortion, but not in favor of clarity. The sound is this constant crackle with whispering voices, so distorted and yet so sort of present that subtitles need to be used in order to have you understand what's being said, which again adds this horrible sort of documented feel to it. Like, this is the subtitles come up like in a documentary when you have a 911 call being played, but it's so heavily distorted they need to put subtitles up. It's that kind of feel. This is in part a necessity, as first-time director Carl Edwards Ball is using borrowed cheap equipment, but the result is naturalistic in the worst possible way. It adds a verisimilitude to proceedings, enhanced by the fact that the director is filming in his childhood home, recreating childhood memories of himself and his sister.
God, it's not like Things.
No, it's not. It's not quite like Things. This is what they could have done if they really knew what they were up to. But thank God they didn't. You can barely see anything, and what you can see is horrible. There are a handful of really effective jump scares, which sucks because once it proves that it can startle you, you're on edge throughout the entire movie, and it builds this fantastic atmosphere. I think it's going to end up going down like the Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity, in that some people are just going to call it boring and suggest that nothing really happens. But, for those it takes, it'll be an all-timer, I think.
Yeah.
And I think just what really lingers with you is the horrific situation. It's an inescapable horror that is befalling 2 very young children who cannot understand what is happening to them. And it perhaps better than any film I've ever seen invokes childhood nightmares, to the point that some of it is almost familiar. Like, you kind of half remember you dreamt this.
I was going to say it feels like a dream, the sort of inescapable logic of it all. We've had those dreams of being pursued by something, and it just doesn't make sense, but there's always a demonic thing there. Those dreams.
Well, the final image of the movie is the scariest thing I've ever fucking seen, and I swear I've had that. I swear I've had that dream when I was a kid, and it's just horrible to think about that. And
can you tell me what it is, and you can cut it out?
Okay.
Oh my God,
it's the worst.
That's horrible.
It's really, really bad, and yeah, it's just there's a moment where the sister asks the brother to put on something happy on the television in order to escape the situation they're in, and that's really relatable. And there's this horrible interplay between the horror and those cheerful cartoons they're playing. It just, which I feel like I remember. I feel like being depressed or sad or scared as a kid, and putting on like a TV or something, and just suddenly that's now part of the horrible feeling you're having.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, really, really well observed, and just nightmarish. That's the only way to put it. It's nightmarish.
I mean, you hear me reeling while Salt's talking, and it's because he showed me the trailer for this before we recorded, and the trailer alone, I was watching it on a monitor, and it wasn't even full screen, and I was still watching it behind my hands because straight away the mood of it and the feel of it was just so unpleasant. Yeah, and not grody in a Michael Bay horror remake way.
Oh,
it was
no,
just, it was disorienting and sensorially very, very upsetting.
Yeah. I think the thing that lets me see this, and the thing that always saves me from like really scary horrors, I'm just so in awe of the technical achievement of it, of what they've managed with it, that I just see that as this beautiful thing, this incredible technique rendered masterfully, and that allows me to forego the dread I feel. But the other day, actually, there were cartoons in it, and there's one really creepy one where a rabbit makes himself disappear with the sound effect that goes whoop, and it repeats over and over again. And somebody took that one clip, tiny clip, and put it on YouTube on its own. And after watching it, I was scared to be in the house on my own.
Oh my god!
It just brought it all back.
I'm very happy to experience these through you, mate. It's the one thing keeping me alive.
Let's I don't think there's any more horror in there's one, but it's not as horrific, so
it's experimental.
Exactly. Yeah. So
all right.
That's Skinamarink.
That's
Skinamarink.
That's a Skinamarink. My number 9 is your number 3, so let's move the fuck on.
Even more. Oh, my number 9 is your
number 8.
So we won't be hearing about that for a long time, fucker.
No way! My number 8's Pinocchio.
Oh, great. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I see how numbers work.
I want to tell you a story. It's a story you may think you know, but you don't. Over there! What is that?
Papa! It speaks!
He's just a puppet.
No, I'm not. I'm a real boy.
People are sometimes afraid of things they don't know.
I don't understand.
Pinocchio.
You be good, Pinocchio, and don't you lie. Fucking every time.
I know, every goddamn time just ruined it. Ruin it for myself and for everyone around me.
I promise I will never hurt you. Ouch!
Guillermo del Toro remakes the Itchy and Scratchy classic.
Sorry, everyone.
Winner of this year's Thank Christ It Managed to Get Made award, as well as the Sometimes You Have to Thank Netflix Appreciation Award. Because the amount of time, the years that went into trying to get this fucker made, and it finally was, and it's better than Disney's, I imagine. I haven't seen the Disney one. I'm not going to. I've seen Tom Hanks in the trailer. I saw Tom Hanks in Elvis. It's not something that I'm going to spend my time on. Guillermo del Toro's adaptation of the story of Pinocchio. For one thing, it's stop motion. It looks fucking incredible. And one thing I noticed, and also was mentioned in the making of, was his ability to bring out natural movements and mannerisms in stop motion.
With mistakes.
Yes, yeah, mistakes, very human actions. It's just unparalleled vision.
Yeah,
you never see that. It's incredible. It's where to start? It's fresh and funny in this weird existential way, because being Del Toro and focusing more on the darker side of these fairy tales, which are pretty dark anyway, and setting it, at the time of Mussolini's Italy, it really expertly blends the tragic and the dark and the comedic, right? Because it is just so fresh and funny, with great vocal performances all round. My favourites are David Bradley as Geppetto, who's just such a cantankerous but passionate old man. Ewan McGregor's Sebastian J. Cricket.
Yeah,
he's fantastic. Just a really lovely wit going through the movie, and Christoph Waltz as Count Volpe. Standouts, but everybody is incredible. Bernd Gorman, with his tiny little thing.
As the monkey.
Yeah, Kate Blanchett as the monkey. Oh God, who said she would play a pencil for Guillermo del Toro. She loves him so much. And these characters are.
Oh, and Tilda Swinton was great.
Tilda Swinton as well, and
really good.
Oh God,
great
a whole bunch of surprising people. But in the vocal performances, in the character design, Del Toro and his amazing, incredible team are able to focus on the extremes of an appearance or a personality, and so much of those characters come to life through those things, whether it's a deeply furrowed brow or small eyes, or being very laconic, and you just get this feeling that this world is so fully and lovingly populated. it is this story, it's the story of this boy who's brought to life, and it is an incredibly existential and fragile thing that he has, and that I have as an audience member watching it. For many reasons, there's a sadness throughout the movie, which is so perfectly tied together in the closing line. That
God.
At which point I had tears. Yeah, before the song, at which point I had tears rolling down my cheeks because of just how delicately beautiful that moment is, but also the entire movie, how it's like it just holds the subject matter in its hands with the utmost care, and at the same time, it's also it does have this ferocious fascist satire. Which
the importance of disobedience. Beautiful.
Yeah. It obviously brings to mind Pan's Labyrinth. Very much feels like a spiritual sister of that, but also thematic. A thematic sister, because it shows his adeptness at weaving fairy tale into political discourse and tragedy. It also brings to mind Solzhenitsyn, Stalin. There's just something about how ridiculous Mussolini is in this movie.
I like the puppets.
Yeah, I like the puppets. It's with his eyes too close together and all that. This tiny man that, like, Vic and Bob style, is barely caught in the frame. It's just a movie that's bursting with so much passion and intensity and compassion that you wonder how the fuck this didn't get made for so long, and why you wouldn't trust Guillermo del Toro, but also
the Hollywood story.
Oh well, yeah, there is that. Good point.
Why would you not trust Guillermo del Toro, a Hollywood thing?
Yeah, Hollywood man. But yeah, this was incredible, and it's so essential for me as part of my soul.
Absolutely, it's beautiful and it's stunning, and it makes you just wonder, why isn't every film someone who's really fucking good at what they're doing trying at the height of their game to do it well as they can do? Because that's exactly what this is. Why would you not watch it? The word masterpiece used so often, but just from a pure craftsman perspective, you could only see this as a masterpiece of animation and storytelling. Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Bring him back to me. Life is such a wonderful gift.
And one of my favorite things about it is still leaving its premiere at the London Film Festival, UK premiere at the very least. Could have been world, some premiere. And some woman was just coming down the stairs behind me, was just like, I just don't think in the Disney version Pinocchio was shot by Mussolini. No, I don't think he was.
I don't believe so, madam.
Good day.
And after I wrote on my 3 penny farthing, whatever it is. Penny farthing. I write a 3 penny farthing.
I'm a pimp. I've got decked out.
Spinning rims.
Have you seen that man riding that thruppity farthing?
That thruppity piece farthing.
I hate this. I hate the time we live in. But I tell you what, better time to live in was is every time that Bruce. David Bowie was the name I was reaching for, and arrived at Bruce. Jesus Christ.
Brucey as I know him.
Oh, Brucey Bowie. Oh, Jesus. My number 8 is Moon Age Daydream.
Fantastic.
Are you there, David?
You're aware of a deeper existence.
Are you there, David? Are you there, David?
Maybe a temporary reassurance that indeed there is no beginning, no end. And you find yourself struggling to comprehend a deep mystery.
This is ground control to Major Tom. You've really made the grade. And the papers want to know whose shirt you wear.
Ever since I was 16, I was determined would have the greatest adventure that only one person could ever have.
This is Brett Morgan's documentary about David Bowie. But hang on a minute. I've been listening to the podcast for years. Yeah, I exist. And I know that Paul doesn't like including documentaries in his top 10. Only reluctantly included The Painter and the Thief in 2020 because nothing else happened in 2020. And he's regretted it every single year since. Touché, person whose name probably begins with a J. But
Bruce,
this isn't a fucking documentary, is it? Shut up. Is it? Shut up, Wikipedia. Because I think this has more in common with a sort of found footage essay film or experimental concert film. There's no voiceover to tell you the important facts about Bowie. You've got some interview stuff, but it's it's part of the overall attempt to sort of explore Bowie through abstraction. You're never told when the voices come from, with the exception of sometimes you'll see like an interview and you'll know, okay, that's from there. For the most part, it's just his voice being used with his imagery in order to explore an idea that is.
And if he's saying something,
meant.
And if he's saying something, he's always saying it with a cheeky face. So you don't know what's true or not.
You don't know what's going on. And yeah, there's no handy captions to give you context or give you the key points about his life or what happened. And fuck off, Edgar Wright, you hag. This is just excellent film. But this is just raw, uncut Bowie. This is an incredibly cinematic montage of previously unseen footage of Bowie's life. This is a rare movie actually endorsed by the Bowie estate, and they gave him access to the archives. And it includes concerts, interviews, and some home video footage as well.
Yeah,
and it's Bruceian, mate. It's roughly chronological, charting Bowie's life from sort of hip London 60s through his arty Berlin years to into his 80s, sort of just entertainment for entertainment's sake focused period. It's a staggering piece of work, and one that I was lucky enough to get to experience in IMAX, where it just made full use of the scale and power of that format. Psychedelic morphing images set to his best songs, making me hear his most iconic tracks in a way that felt new, like I was hearing them for the first time. And yeah, the effect is to create an elusive but incredibly absorbing impression of David Bowie. It pays homage to the man and his beliefs without exposing him or demystifying him.
Yes.
Explaining it would be the worst thing to just be like the way he would move often beguiled audiences.
Yeah.
It's just let his actual work do the work of telling you who he was. The charm, the swagger, the thoughtfulness, the vulnerability that made him such an enduring artist is not only well preserved but amplified by the use of montage. It's perfect meeting of style and subject. With so many of my favorite films of this year, I'm slightly in awe of the fact that they actually exist, and then just hopeful that they will point the way towards a future for the art in their various forms. And this is how to put music in cinemas. This is how you explore an artist visually, and this is how you celebrate an icon. Because I saw the director, Brett Morgan, interviewed, and he said, back in my day you had concert movies because cinemas have fucking great sound systems. They have incredible sound systems, so why not put music into those spaces? And already we had a Scar movie, the name of which I've forgotten, but it just came out in UK cinemas. And it's like a big concert movie, and you had Summer of Soul last year. So there's a hope. There's a hope that maybe this could represent a turning point and we'll get music back into cinemas because,
fantastic.
They belong there.
Yeah, even as someone who isn't like particularly obsessed with Bowie, someone I never got into in a big way. The movie itself is so fucking enigmatic, and it paints such an enigmatic picture of the artist, and it explored the artistic process of somebody who's clearly an innovative thinker.
Oh god, yeah, so ahead of his time when he talks about things like gender and sexuality.
Oh god, yeah, just so just so fascinating in its own right. And it's hard. Yeah, it's hard not to get completely swept up in the headiness of it all.
Yeah,
very visually impressive movie.
Oh god, yeah, and hopefully it'll do for people what the Sparks Brothers did. For me with Sparks, of just sort of making people aware of this music, and if they're not already. I think obviously David Bowie's a lot more ubiquitous than Sparks have ever been, but yeah, hopefully it'll also see some new fans emerge.
Fingers crossed.
What's your fantasy?
Bowie.
Right, your number 7.
My number 7, mate, me old mucker, is Thomas M. Wright's The Stranger.
Hey, do you want me to teach you something that I learned at work? Close your eyes, and you're gonna breathe in. And when you breathe in, you're gonna imagine that you're breathing in really clear air. And then when you breathe out all black, dark, bad air.
Oh shit.
I wasn't expecting this one to make it into my top 10 until I saw the thing and went, yeah, this is one of the best movies of the year. Seventh best, in fact. Joel Edgerton and Sean Harris give some of my year's favourite performances in this Australian psychological crime thriller based on the book The Sting, The Undercover Operation That Caught Daniel Morecambe's Killer by Kate Kiriakou. Fundamentally, it's a cat and mouse-esque game, but built on this sting, on this fiction of Joel Edgerton's character, this cop, going undercover to become friends with Sean Harris, who's suspected of kidnapping and killing a boy, which is an actual thing. It's based on a real life sting, real life murder that on authority gripped the nation for some time, as it would.
Yeah. Sure.
And for me, above all else, this is a vehicle for two perfect performances from Edgerton and Harris. It's a real showcase of less is more. It's incredibly bleak subject matter, but it's as tastefully done as this kind of thing can be. It's not interested in shock value of grisly images, mostly relying on the dynamic between Edgerton and Harris, and also the effect that this event has had on the psyches of everybody involved, whether it's the original investigators or crime scene police or Joel Edgerton himself. And it really, really works. You feel the suffocation and mental burden on Edgerton's character as he's put into contact with Harris again and again, and the stoicism with which he has to approach these moments of surprising intimacy, which in any other relationship would be these important moments of learning about the other person. There's a particular scene in there of Sean Harris showing Edgerton this song that he loves, and it's a real moment of intimacy that, if they were just normal friends, would be this lovely moment, but instead you have this suffocation and nausea and just absolute disgust at what you're seeing. And Joel Edgerton as this tough guy who, he has a daughter, and he's a dude who does, clearly not very particularly emotive, and I think shuns suggestions that he gets psychiatric help. He shuns the suggestion of getting psychiatric help, and so he's dealing with all this stuff inside, and what he can get across with a still expression is heartbreaking, and it's so profound. And again, it's this slow burner of a film, and it's kind of remarkable watching such a complex operation take place at this interminable pace. And it's not about action beats or Hollywood style moments of tension, like, oh, is this gonna work? Is this operation gonna? Is it gonna work the way I want? I hope so. But it's an incredibly sophisticated and well observed piece of cinema that I think will surprise anyone who can muster the enthusiasm to and the burden of watching something.
Absolutely.
That does have a psychological weight on it. But it was incredible. It really blew my mind watching it, and I was stunned for hours after watching it.
Yeah. No, I went in knowing very little about it, and it fell quite neatly into that tradition of sort of very bleak Australian crime thrillers that are very difficult to watch. But yeah, I think the bit that really got me was Sean Harris, the scenes in which his character engages with the process of cooperating with the authorities. Just the calmness with which he went about describing things was just absolutely terrifying.
Yeah. I still think of particular shots of Sean Harris.
Yeah.
They just attack me unbidden.
Yeah. That's Sean Harris in general. I remember interviewing Matthew Holness, Garth Marenghi, because he put Sean Harris in his film Possum, and he's just very gently sort of saying, yeah, he takes his work very seriously. I think was his way of putting it. He's an unnerving man. I think it's fair to say. He's a very
I can imagine.
man.
I don't think he was in Trespass Against Us, right? And that was probably his least upsetting role.
Oh God, no, I can't. I don't know if I remember that. He was very upsetting in Possum, and once you find out, again, it's not an unrelated role to The Stranger, but
yeah.
I mean, he was also in Macbeth, Ched Kurzel's Macbeth.
He was Macduff, right?
Yeah. So.
And he's one of the bad guy, like the main bad guys in Mission Impossible.
Yes, he is. Yes, shows up in a few of those.
The
Hunt. What will you
Wonderful
do?
man. A very good Australian accent.
Frightening man.
Yeah. What's your number 7, son?
My number 7's your number 6.
Oh my God. So again, you're going to have to wait fucking ages, mate. Broker.
Fucking ages, son. Broker. That's what it was. That's what it'll always be.
우성아 미안해. 꼭 데리러 올게.
생각이 전혀 없구만.
그럴 권리 없잖아, 당신들한테.
그쪽도 없잖아, 버렸으니까.
얘 최고의 양부모를 찾아줄 것을 약속드립니다.
언젠데 출발이?
Tell us about Broker.
All right then. Cunt. Corriada's latest, director of Shoplifters, Still Walking, and others. This time a Korean language movie starring Song Kang-ho of Parasite fame, not to mention a whole bunch of incredible pieces of Korean cinema and lots of munchin. Bae-duna and more. Two men are these unofficial illegal brokers of orphan children, pairing them with prospective parents who aren't able to adopt through legal means. And when Moon So-young, played by Lee Ji-eun, returns to collect a child, the three embark on the mission to find her child the parents and upbringing he deserves. Meanwhile, detectives Soo-jin, Bae-duna, and Detective Lee, played by Lee Ju-young, are hot on their trail, waiting for them to make the deal so they can step in and prosecute. And aside from the fascinating social commentary of baby boxes, an idea that has come under scrutiny and criticism in Korea and Japan, anywhere else that it's been introduced, because conservatives don't like the notion that people are allowed, able to do something about their situations.
Yeah, it's that age-old thing, isn't it? It's the idea that if you make it safer to do something, like that, then more people will do it. But it's not. That's not the case. It's just that it'll make it safer for people to do the thing they will do anyway.
Yes, exactly. It's like the injecting room here. People
exactly
the uproar that came when it was introduced and has been going for years. It's just is baffling because people can't look outside of this notion of protecting the family and like
even
the family
abortion,
capitalized.
If you happen to take against it, you can't. It's just. What's that phrase? You can't ban abortion. You can only ban safe abortion. Yes,
exactly. And the film explores this in the typical Corriada way, which is to say, full of compassion and at the same time exploring ideas of parenthood and family. It's no surprise that Corriada has linked this movie to his 2018 Shoplifters.
Definitely.
Yeah, like Shoplifters, this tells us a story of this family of outcasts thrown together by circumstance and forming real and important connections all the same.
Found family is a big thing for them.
And what I love is how tenderly this is done, but without lapsing into melodrama or hackneyed platitudes. Instead, it finds something honest about trauma and compassion and about these people's personalities. And it helps that the performances from the cast are all fantastic, and as with a lot of Corriada's movies, it's a decent enough size cast of characters who are fully realized and relatable. Characters who all hold sadness in their hearts, holding secrets and desires and tragedies and everything that makes up a human being. And as the film presents these characters groping blindly towards understanding, expertly raising all criticisms and praise for the baby box scheme through dialogue. It encourages irresponsible mothers, blah blah blah, it really hits at the center of the issue, which is obviously that the criticisms address symptoms of injustice and inequality, conveniently ignoring the disease, and as it were. And this is what Koreeda also does on a wider scale in Broker. It gives you as many arguments and positions as possible, and as many walks of life and perspectives as possible, showing not solutions as such, but demonstrating exactly the struggle of human existence and what we need to find in order to try and search for solutions. And on top of all of that, it's funny, it's graceful, it's definitely bittersweet, and I feel that it's the best this movie could have possibly been, made as it was in the hands of an absolute master.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've now seen almost everything Koreeda has done, and this is one of his more plot-driven films, because it's a road movie essentially, but it's absolutely grounded in character action and these intense sort of personal dramas. And I really fell in love with everyone, more or less, regardless of where they were on this kind of spectrum of opinion of what the correct action to take is. And it doesn't really cop out and suggest an idyllic. It has an ending that is bittersweet, but it doesn't suggest a solution to the whole thing, which is beautiful. And yeah, it's all about found family and his deeply humanistic look at criminal behavior and what motivates it. It's just, it's gorgeous. And I just, again, very happy that Koreeda is one of the filmmakers who is out there working at the moment, because it's just a wonderful little addition to his incredible filmography.
It really is.
나 혼자였으면 아무것도 못했을 거야.
굳이 뭐 혼자 다 할 필요는 없어.
Well, my number 6. My number 6 is Ennis Main.
Are you lonely?
Not really.
Are you there? Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah. Now, hello there, lover. Have you ever just felt like a film has been made just for you? This is the second feature from Mark Jenkins, the Cornish filmmaker behind Bait, a man who seems to have been inspired by all of the British cinema that I love intensely. Recently, he made a short film inspired by Jerzy Skolimevsky's The Shout, and for this film specifically, he had a season at the BFI curated by Jenkins, listing the cinematic DNA of Ennis Main. And I remember opening the program and was just delighted. This is stuff that I've been watching my whole life. Stuff like The Stone Tape, Penda's Fen, Haunters of the Deep, Symptoms, movies like Lost Highway, Barbarian Sound Studio. Even Jean Dillman was in there. And so it just felt this great sense of cinematic kinship to Jenkins. And this film is a worthy monument to those influences. It's a grainy 70s style folk horror film about a woman played by Mary Woodbine, who's Mark Jenkins' real-life wife.
Ooh, my real-life wife.
Real-life wife, living alone on a remote island off the coast of Cornwall, where she measures the rate of growth of a fungus on a flower. So it has this kind of natural nature documentary feel to it.
Yeah.
Then she goes, measures that, tosses a rock into a well, then goes home. By the old railway that used to be used by people who mined the island before there was a terrible collapse of some sorts. Goes to her house, writes the journal, then goes to bed. Cooks herself something, listens to the radio for a bit, and that's kind of it. And her house incidentally is right by this creepy standing stone. We see that play out a few times before things start to go wrong. She's haunted by something in her past, and somewhat disturbed by a strange man who keeps visiting the island, who's played by Edward Rowe, who was, of course, in Bait, and is one of the most uniquely faced men appearing in cinema these days. He's got a really strong, powerful look, which I kind of love, and, of course, his great voice, the great Cornish accent, which never sounded more sinister than out of Mr. Edward Rowe. And also she's being haunted by some very startling visions that have sort of Nicholas Rogue feel quality to them. So the granny quality to this film And the abstract imagery creates a really deconstructed impression of the island, a very textured impression of its windswept cliffsides and sort of plant life. And Woodbine is fantastic as the haunted woman, and the film just charts a geography of her kind of ruddy, weathered face. And these are such unique, real people in his movies, which is so refreshing.
Oh, great.
They look like actual human beings in such a strange way to say, but there's something so lived in to the movie, every part of it, including the cast. And
great.
It's a slow-moving film, but it's very experimental and atmospheric. But it also just perfectly evokes a sense of dread, and so beautifully creates an immersive experience that you just get carried away by it. It's
lovely.
It's folk horror, because people said of Bate, this movie feels like a horror film, and he says, okay, well, let's see what happens when I make a horror film then.
Yeah.
And it tackles so much of what folk horror can do beautifully, linking our past and our anxieties about the past to the landscape, to the land that we live in, connecting the personal to the historic of nature in all of its power and mystery. It's totally idiosyncratic, and I'm so pleased that there is a world-class experimental filmmaker working so closely with the kind of cinema that I really cherish in my country. It's just, there's something really special about that. So I'm thrilled by it. It's just a little scrapbook of great British horror cinema.
I'm thrilled hearing you talk about it. Mark Rowe was also the voice of Godfrey in Elden Ring, so there's something we can all get behind. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Oh, boy. My number 5 is your number 1, you fool.
Oh my god! That's so high up. All right, then.
Jesus,
let's
I
talk
can't
about
think that far ahead.
Let's talk about my number 5.
Ooh.
Alcaraz. Alcaraz, everyone, if you want to Google it.
Alex Karras.
Still sol for giornale, no mattina rietam. Si el marquès hagués de batre, ja ens hauríem mort de fam.
So, yeah, from my number 6, which is a movie that made me feel very grounded to the soil I live upon, my number 5 transports me to another place, a warmer, sunnier, more natural place.
Less fucked place.
A less fucked place than Concreteville, where I live. This is, the second film, actually, of... this is only the second film of Carla Simone that I've seen after summer 1993. I believe she's made at least one more than that.
Oh, that rings a bell.
Might be only her second, I'm not sure, but summer 1993 was similarly gorgeous and poignant, but I actually find this film even more involving and immersive.
Oh, cool.
It's essentially just about a Catalonian family who live in an idyllic, verdant farm that has been in the family for generations, but only by spoken agreement. No contract was ever signed, and so it looks like they may well lose this land and have to leave by the end of the summer, and so this might be their last harvest there. But in spite of that premise, in spite of that sort of cataclysmic premise, the film is not a tragedy. There's a melancholy to the heart of the whole thing, a sense that this way of life may be ending, and that the family may face an uncertain future, which causes a lot of frustration and friction, but there's just this powerful sense that no matter what's going to happen, they're going to be together, and they're going to face down this future together. The family do what any family facing disaster does, and I've kind of learned this now, having experienced some difficulty with my family, which is you just focus on the day-to-day and caring for each other and getting frustrated with each other and just kind of living. You don't sit down and talk about the thing that's gone wrong every single day. You know, something still has to get made for lunch and dinner, you know, and work still needs to get done. So, and there's just a beautiful sense of that because so much of this movie is just their lives. And there's this wonderful naturalism with which everything is captured. It's almost entirely non-professional actors, which is staggering and truly speaks to Simone's skill as a director. You learn all the members of this extended family. There's so many of them, and yet you learn them and you learn your favorites. The easiest to love, I think, is the father, who's this classic dad type, who's very serious about the work getting done and sort of, you know, yells at people when they're not doing stuff right, but always in a very charming way. He's also just got this big laugh and a real affection for his kids. there's a drinking tournament at one stage in it, and he wins, and then they just put him on a chair. They pick him up and are like bouncing him up and down whilst he smiles with his big hand. He's like Homer Simpson in my head. He's just this perfect like archetype of a dad.
Oh, okay.
And he also,
dad.
Maybe he's got a slight crush on his wife's sister and he likes flirting with her a bit. That's something that might happen, but hey, it's not. This isn't a drama movie, so that's not going to come to anything.
Yeah. Okay.
And then also there's the middle daughter, Iris, who's this little girl because there's a very young daughter, but she's typically seen leading her 2 boy cousins off into some great imagined adventure, a sci-fi or war or something, and performing some learned burial rites on dead animals around the farm. They have some hired help helping them with the collecting, bringing in of the harvest, and one of them teaches her some burial rites, and so she goes around and does it for the rabbits that have been shot.
Okay. Which
is another aspect. There's things like a scene where they're riding their car through the night using a flashlight to try and shoot rabbits, and it's not a sort of big dickhead kind of sort of toxic masculinity moment. It's a very practical sort of, these rabbits will destroy their livelihood if they don't shoot some of them, so they've got to go out and do that. And it's beautifully well observed that it once feels as though you're being transported to another place, but also just brings you back to the interactions you have with your own family.
Yeah.
The moment that really stood out for me is the whole family is gathered in the little bathroom, and the mum is giving the dad a massage because he's fucked his back. The daughter is playing around in the bath, and the sister is doing her nails. The son isn't about, he's off somewhere else. And another time, they're all just lying in bed as the mother is trying to choose a dress, and they're just kind of lazily on top of each other, and it's just these little moments of casual, effortless intimacy that you remember from sort of, I don't know, the days when nothing more important needed to be done.
Yeah.
And it's just really charming. And very much like Roma, it also has some big scale moments, where the spectacle is derived from the everyday, a protest that they attend, a marketplace, a dance, but it doesn't have the drama or set pieces of Roma, there's no big hospital sequence or the wave sequence, but just a lot of really tender, well-observed moments of humanity.
I was going to say,
it was just a thrill to spend time in. Yeah.
From the trailer, the trailer, I really did get a vibe of Roma.
Yes.
I thought it'd be reminiscent of it. Again, not necessarily in the scale or the set pieces, but the sentiment and, overall feel.
Absolutely. And reminiscent of great old Spanish movies as well, like Spirit of the Beehive or El Sur. Just, cool. Really part of a rich cinematic tradition there.
Cool. Yeah. And it sounds like it's a movie about the sense of enduring as well, which is
absolutely. You just
very positive.
You need to know people still live like this. You need to know there's still a farm where kids can run about as much as they want whilst parents draw in the harvest and practice ancient skills of how to correctly, cook snails, for example, or
correctly doing it is the important thing.
Yeah. And it's just, charming for that.
Beautiful. My number 4 is your number 2?
Yes.
Well.
Oh, shit. Well then, let's get into my number 4. My number 4 is your number 3.
Gosh, you're always peeking over my shoulder with your numbers. I was like, I'll see what you have to say on it, and then I'll add to it with something very smart. Ah, damn it. Well, my number 3 is Tar.
My number 4.
Oh my god, what are the coincidences? What are the coincidences
of that?
If you're here, then you already know who she is. Lydia Tarr is many things. As a conductor, Tarr began her career with the Cleveland Orchestra, Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the Boston Symphony Orchestra, until she at last arrived here at our own New York Philharmonic. In 2013, Berlin elected Tarr as its principal conductor, and she's remained there ever since. Lydia Tarr has also written music for the stage and screen. She is one of only 15 EGOTs, meaning those who have won all 4 major entertainment awards. Thank you for joining us, Maestro.
Thank you.
Cate Blanchett plays infamous Hungarian filmmaker Bela Tarr. Oh no, wait, that's the wrong. It's before I did my research. Cate Blanchett plays Lydia Tarr.
Oh,
that changes everything.
Damn.
Well, anyway, shit joke out of the way. Cate Blanchett plays Lydia Tarr, renowned composer and conductor, who's approaching the apotheosis of her career, conducting a performance of Mahler's Fifth Symphony, when allegations of sexual misconduct arise, threatening to unseat her, ruin her reputation, and her mental state. And first off, it's a brilliantly multifaceted thing. I remember when I told you about it, about how much I loved it. You expressed that it was an incredibly effective psychological thriller at the same time as being, I'm not sure if you said it, like a musical biopic or something else, but it straddles these two things and gives it gives 100% to both. It's also sort of social commentary, but a social commentary that isn't moralizing or doesn't have an agenda so much as showing you the psyche of the central character, who is obsessed with her art and the things that drive her, but also you get intimations of how this affects the people around her, including when she's just told straight up how it's affecting people. And Tar is played with such force and impetus by Blanchett. It's like watching a star explode. She barrels through so many scenes with power and authority. It's difficult not to be swept up by the pure charisma she exudes. And it that only adds to the psychological the thriller aspects and to the suspicion and paranoia and everything that's all a part of her artistic process as well. And but the fact that it's taking this story, fixing it to the artistic mania and the artistic process that elevates it. The sound design is unreal.
Oh yeah.
The attention to the finest notes being eked out at the end of a performance, or the diegetic noise, the happenings around her apartment as she wakes up, and to stereo image. I've never noticed panning used with such sophistication in a theatre. And it really makes the film impressive on technical level alone to have these little sounds happening, one that's behind your head, the other it feels like it's coming from underneath you, and it adds to the love of the process and love of the art and the passion, but it also adds to the thriller aspects, the psychological unraveling, playing tricks on the senses and heightening the paranoia of this brilliant mind. So, and I don't want to go into too much detail here, but it is a film about the abuse of power and egomania that's involved with somebody in that position potentially. But it's also about obsession and the pure thing that drives a person to the point of excluding all other concerns. And it manages to tell both of these stories with such aplomb, right down to the final shot, which absolutely caught my breath. The detail and care and the paranoia and obsession that make up the telling of this story ends in this specific way is something. It's like a mystery of life to me that I keep returning to. I can't get enough of revisiting it and thinking it through.
Yeah, it is. It does have within it the sort of the things that can get in the way of that spark of creative process, because she does have this urge to try and work, and yet also all these distractions, and is so much more invested in the sort of power structures of the institutions that she has now become a part of, which is really interesting. And you have that beautiful sequence where she kind of rediscovers that initial love and drops all of the pretensions that she's kind of surrounded herself with as a wall to prevent her from ever being questioned. I adored Tar. It felt monumental. It's iconically acted as a character drama, an enigmatic psychological thriller about loneliness, and a fascinating study of power in the world of classical music. It's all of those things, but in spite of all these lofty accolades, it's also just really quite cheeky and fun. It's got a really good sense of humor. There's little like psychological thriller elements that don't, that are a little elusive, like who set off the metronome? What was that real? Did that happen? What was the deal with the dog sequence in the underground? Like, it's got these little Black Swan-esque moments of fantasy that just, I don't know, it in spite of certain very art house affectations, like putting the entire credit sequence at the beginning and these long sort of dream sequences, which are just stunning. It has a real sort of I don't know, audience friendliness to it that I think makes it a very good thing to see with a crowd. You know, there's gasps, there's laughs, there's, you know, it's a film that might be mischaracterized. I worry, but is incredibly, a really entertaining film as well as being one with just profound levels to it.
It's a spectacle on so many levels.
Oh God, yeah, huge film in terms of its scale,
incredible
its imagery. It's
and does not feel its length at all.
No,
it feels redundant to say, but for an amazing movie like this. But God, I thought I was surprised. I thought an hour had passed.
Yeah. No, I feel like Tar could one day be the sort of great classic literature sort of thing, and as much as it gets so much reputation for being great, people forget how good it is. There's that kind of risk facing it, but we'll just have to continue to declare its greatness to anyone who's willing to listen, because it's just well worth a watch.
Yeah.
You must in fact stand in front of the public and God and obliterate yourself.
Was that your number 3?
That was my number 3.
Well, I just have to talk about my number 3 then, which is The Banshees of Inisherin.
Colin, Sonny, Larry. Didn't you and he used to be the best of friends?
We're still the best of friends.
No, you're not.
Who says we're not? Sit somewhere else. Now, if I've done something to you, just tell me what I've done to you.
But you didn't do anything to me. I just don't like you no more.
You liked me yesterday.
I'd say, it was pretty good. I'd say 9th best.
Oh, yes, you have your number 9.
My number 9.
Your number 9. Yes, for me, quite handily Martin McDonagh's best film. It's a film that showcases all of his strengths, whilst lacking many of his often frustrating faults that you see in some of his more recent films. It has a focus and a cohesion that I think is unique in his filmography. This is one idea.
Yes.
Explored very fully with just so much implication to that idea. It's 2 Irish men, played by Brendan Gleeson and Colin Farrell, living on a remote island off the coast of Ireland, whose friendship ends abruptly when Gleeson decides that he just doesn't like Farrell's character anymore.
Yeah.
And then he wants to spend his time pursuing loftier things than a friendship with that character is going to allow. McDonagh, he's a playwright, as was Bergman. And sometimes those disciplines can settle a little uneasily together if you end up writing a play and then filming it. You end up with a very uncinematic film. But, which isn't to say that, that Bergman didn't make cinematic films, of course, but sometimes he could fall prey to that. But in Banshees, there's a theatricality that is actually purely cinematic. The characters feel like archetypes with hundreds of years of tradition behind them, used expertly by McDonough to explore themes of male friendship, mental health, self-worth, legacy, and, most poignantly perhaps, a fracture in the heart of the Irish nation that may never fully heal. But on a fundamental level, it's just a beautiful balancing act. The poignant against the farcical, laughs one minute and then tears the next.
Yeah.
And of course, all of that is facilitated by a cast giving career best performances across the board.
Yeah.
Farrell is a sweet man driven to meanness by the sudden indifference of the world he's in. And he's everything that Ireland perhaps can't afford to be again, twisted into what it risks becoming if it forgets itself completely.
Yeah.
It feels like the war of the heart of a nation is at the center of this movie. Gleeson has never been more affecting. He's got this gentle giant demeanor with immense humanity and pathos, even when he's being cruel or unreasonable.
Yeah.
There's just something so understandable and lovable about the man. And as a result, you just utterly feel Farrell's frustration that he can't just be his friend anymore.
Yeah.
And then Kerry Condon playing Farrell's sister and is one of my favorite characters of the year. She could so easily have just been the dull foil for the comedic characters around her, the audience surrogate. Woman. But it's the woman, exactly, in the 90s sitcom.
Yeah.
But it's a performance of such pathos and humor. she may be the audience surrogate, but it's aspirational. You want to be this character. You want to be quick and smart and solid enough, and B possesses the strength to carry her broken heart and withstand the disappointment and stupidity of the world that she is all too familiar with.
Yeah.
Barry Keoghan plays the Shakespearean fool who is wiser and more complex than he seems, because he's seemingly blunt and vulgar, but actually very astute and sensitive to the issues that the people around him are experiencing. He's just too innocent to have any sense of appropriateness regarding it.
Yeah.
And, oh god, there are too many memorable smaller characters to name, but entirely superficially, this is also a gorgeous film.
Yeah.
The fictional island of Inisherin is achingly inviting, even if it is fecking boring. It just looks so good, and you just want to have a little chair outside your door that you can sit in and watch cliffs and waves and, and a rolling sky that stretches on forever. And I don't know, this for me, this just feels like the definitive work from McDonagh. It's a refinement of everything that has made his work so fascinating. It's a mythic work, and it's a film I think I'm going to treasure going forward, because it's just, again, so entertaining to watch, as well as just being so profound. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, you feel the music and the crowded taverns, and you feel the fresh air and the rolling waves, and I've always appreciated how unplay-like Martin McDonagh's scripts can feel, because he has such an eye for cinematic, and of course, they're incredibly well written, and this film is so fucking smartly written. It's no wonder, and the performances are incredible. And particularly, what I loved about this movie, other than all the things you just said, the little small town refrains that came out in the dialogue, the little shush, like, the little the tiny little things that just tell you like of how much this friendship ending matters, how like huge a rock it is that's thrown in the stream.
My favorite moment of the whole because I watched it again last night, and the moment that really hit me was after Colin Farrell's been beaten up. This is well after the friendship has ended, and he's sort of being blanked, but he's not currently issued his iconic threat yet, which we haven't even mentioned. We haven't even mentioned the premise of the film, but in so many ways it just feels secondary. Like, that's the thing that's going to get you through the door, the delicious little nugget that's going to bring people in. Because I remember showing people the trailer for this, and then you get to that line where he issues his threat, and people are just like, "Oh." You need that kind of thriller angle to it, to that kind of freak show quality to bring people in. It's so much not the point of the movie. But anyway, Colin Farrell's just been beaten up, and Brendan Gleeson picks him up, puts him on the cart, and then drives him home. Well, part of the way home, and they're not speaking to each other. And Farrell sees Gleeson driving him home and just breaks down into tears, because he just can't understand what this is, what this means, what's happening. And the other moment that got me was when his sister asks him, "Do you ever just feel lonely?" And he just says, "What's wrong with everybody?" Like, it's just not a question that makes sense to him.
No, he lacks that dimension
at the moment
in his understanding.
He learns it.
Oh God, it's incredible. There's so much. Brendan Gleeson, the conviction and confidence that he has in this insanity, like in the face of the extremes that he takes it, is heartbreaking. And there's a particular moment where you feel like they're getting on an even keel, and Colin Farrell with a single line undoes it all, and you just hear the heartbreak in the cinema as it happened, because of how momentous that truly is. Because you can just you can see the course it's taking, and obviously, if you know anything about the Irish Civil War, you know what's going to happen. And I did appreciate the allusions of the Irish Civil War. Obviously, it's not just allusions; it's directly it's an analog, essentially, a great reminder, and it is just a truly wonderful movie.
Let's just call it quits.
We won't call it quits. We'll call it the start.
What's your number 2?
My number 2 is The Quiet Girl.
How long should they keep her? Till after the baby?
She can't take keep for as long as they like.
Well, ich an galinsa. Shasamach, good out of my spleche cartart.
Oh, the quiet girl.
Yeah. What's she saying nowadays?
No, not much, I expect.
You expect correct, sir. This was a total surprise. I was not expecting this to end up in my top 10. It looked like a lovely film that we would appreciate on a Sunday night, and I ended it weeping and I mean, I spent most of the movie just going, oh God, and not because it's not because it's a horrible movie. And as people nowadays who have seen Game of Thrones and any number of shows or films that teach you to expect the worst, especially when something nice happens, you can be forgiven for feeling on edge for quite a lot of this movie. But this is, more than anything, it's an exploration of what would happen if a child were permitted to receive the exact level of attention and love they need to flourish.
Yeah.
It's an adaptation of Claire Keegan's Foster, directed by Colm Baraid. And yeah, this, if anybody hasn't figured it out yet, my top 10 this year does seem to be mostly about family relationships and close interpersonal relationships. This is another incredibly well-observed drama about family, this time about Kate, who's a quiet and neglected daughter in a large, poor family who's invited to stay with relatives for the summer, a childless couple who live on a farmstead. And for the duration of her stay, she's nurtured instead of neglected. And she's not neglected out of meanness. It's just the time and money doesn't allow for every child to get the attention they need. And as the quiet girl, she is going to be overlooked. And the nurturing that she receives in the film tells us, as it's happening, about what was lacking, from her own parents. And every scene we have of her being nurtured and treated with and given the attention that any child needs to thrive is utterly heartbreaking. Yeah. Because every time it just clicks what was missing from her upbringing until now, why she's struggling at school, why she struggles with reading and whatnot. And this, so it put me in a very fragile state of mind, because it's so well observed. There is so much compassion for this character and for the couple looking after her for the summer. But there's a swiftness with which she can be plunged into the hands of less than loving people. That happens about 2/3 of the way through the movie. It reminds you how precarious this situation can be. It never ceases to be heartbreaking. The cinematography, it does such a great job of showing us cloying, claustrophobic home environments and non-nourishing environments, and then larger affluent spaces that also offer more room and light and vision to be able to grow into the person that every child can be. Kate herself gives such an amazing performance. Catherine Clinch plays Kate. She's incredible as this reserved, quiet, withdrawn girl who has learned to stay quiet. It's like sort of had that behavior reinforced. And the couple who look after her, played by Carrie Crowley and Andrew Bennett, the foster parents for the summer, the three of them together, it's light touches and quiet contemplation as they fully respect each other and want to do the absolute best for this girl. And obviously their private history, all of these things together, there's so much in here that's reassuring and lovely. And it was just a movie that I found I needed. I needed this movie so badly. Once I realized that what this movie was going to do was tell me what could happen if the potential could be realized if this girl were treated the way she needs to be treated. On top of that, it's largely in Gaelic, and to an English clod such as myself, it does lend the film a feeling of poetry and melody. Similar, I guess, to the monologues in You Won't Be Alone. But ultimately, it's just this film that feels like it could change the world if it could change the right minds, and is so pure at heart that it articulated something very essential in my soul, and I can't properly describe how grateful I am to this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, one of the things I find most remarkable about it is the way that it explores the idea of silence versus quietness. Because silence is what is demanded of her. You know, in the classroom from her parents, she is expected to sort of be silent.
True.
Yeah. But then it's not a case of a sort of Hollywood movie where, you know, by the end of the movie she's really garrulous and speaking, and this defines her difference. Instead, the moments of tenderness towards her are themselves very quiet. They're little gestures and actions, and you know, she learns to express herself, but you know, is still the person that she is, and it's this idea of sort of a comfort, and it's such a subtle shift that is rendered so vividly that it's really quite a masterpiece of subtle filmmaking.
Yeah, it's that level of understanding that makes it so special for me. Yeah, if it was a story about how she finally got to prom, you know, and, or you know, or something similar, or finally joined the lacrosse team, it wouldn't have the same effect. It's just she doesn't need to be anything other than herself.
No, and she learns to just realize that she deserves better, which is an incredible thing. And you know, the final image could be perceived as being a fairly devastating thing, but the whole point is that the arc has happened.
Yes.
You know, the movie ends exactly at the point when she has gone where she needs to go, and you know, very much like where The Shawshank Redemption should have ended.
Yeah.
Ní gádaj érodra chuoine gersin gcónaí. Is omí duine nár thógan de se bhéala chamad dúnta is a chail móra an dá bhar.
It was so hard to choose which film to put first for me amongst my top two. And this second choice actually feels more like a likely choice for my favourite film of the year, so perhaps this represents growth or something. It's not too late. I could just read out what I've got for my number one and put this second.
Growth, eh?
No, I won't. No, let's put this second. Okay. So this is a stylish and sexy thriller with a lot of twists and some excellent action. And
you sure, mate?
Truly. Oh, yeah. And truly inventive use of cinematography and editing.
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be Park Chan-wook then.
Oh, yes.
Decision to leave.
Well, there are all the notes I wrote about it.
그 친절한 형사의 심장을 가져다 주세요. 난 좀 갖고 싶네.
저 거기 없는데요.
그럼 어딘데요?
졸지 말아요. 조금만 더 참아요.
My number 4.
Weary but gorgeous detective agent, played by Park Hae-il, is struggling to find two fugitives when suddenly another case gets landed into his lap, the death of a retired immigration officer, seemingly from a tragic accidental fall. But he begins to suspect his beautiful wife, his beautiful Chinese wife. It didn't finish. Just put Song. Because, yes, her name's Tong Wei, but her character is Song Soo-rae.
That's it.
Yeah. Right, yes. So, that's your premise. The film's hot. All of Park Chan-wook's films have erotic elements. As he told us in the UK premiere of The Handmaiden, he is known as the intellectual pervert by his fans, and it suits. The film is actually not very explicit compared to some of his other films, that film in particular, but so much is communicated by eye contact and size proximity and editing. The two leads are charismatic, very cool, and just there's something so old school Hollywood about how they interact with each other.
Yes.
And the way in which they sort of build that sense of eroticism without anything really full on happening. Then you have the style of the film. It's just effortlessly cool, ingeniously different without affectation. That's Park's style.
Yeah.
To make it just feel effortless.
Yeah.
And yet doing things that no one else would think to do.
Yeah.
Just so inventive and arresting. You get propelled through the sometimes elusive story. There will be times where it probably will lose you and you're like, wait, what is this? Who's this guy?
Yeah.
Again, I am confused because, that will happen. But in the same way as like The Big Sleep, for example, you'll be so caught up in the style of it in how charismatic its lead characters are and the romances happening between them that you'll just go along with it until you get back on track, because it won't fully lose you.
Yeah.
Because ultimately this is the story about the personal relationship between the two of them, so the little details aren't too important. And then the more times you watch it, the more rich you realize the actual plot is, because this isn't Raymond Chandler. It does all add up, just about at the heart of it. But yeah, just some of the most unique and striking sequences you'll see in a film, including plenty of his trademark scene transitions, and just like discovering cinematography for the first time. It's just incredible. But the story it's telling is a tragic love story between two very likable but complex characters who have both found methods of survival that work for them but have left them dissatisfied with who they are now, and see their relationship with each other as a potential way back if they can just bring themselves to bridge the divide that separates them and actually trust each other. Or is that a good idea? Should they trust each other? Is it safe to do so? It's not entirely clear as you watch the film how authentic anything is. And the unpredictability of the film is what delights me the most. You never know what it's going to do next, when it's going to change gear, change genre, cut months into the future, or revisit something you thought you knew and expose it as a fabrication.
It's also perfectly shot. Yeah,
perfectly shot. Performances are flawless. The dialogue is wonderful, as it always is with Park Chan-wook. He's underrated as a writer of great dialogue, but everyone talks in these poetic truisms and riddles that then get recurrence is a big thing with him in terms of the same phrase showing up time and time again. Shattered becomes an important word in this one.
I'm shattered.
Oh, shattered, mate.
So many crimes.
The word shattered just takes on all this different meaning, and it's gorgeous. And the title itself, Decision to Leave, just has so much meaning when you see the thing as a whole, and it gives everything this great sense of portent. Like, this is it has that usual feeling of Greek tragedy that you get with Park Chan-wook, that there's obsession in here and inevitability that is all just going to turn out the way that it will. And Park also seems to be a bit obsessed with the British Isles, as evidenced by his last 3 projects. And in particular, I don't know, there's something of the whiff of the Hitchcock about this film. But I actually think,
for sure.
I actually think this can actually stand up to Vertigo and go toe to toe with one of the all-time great thrillers. It's just, a film I think I will be thinking about and revisiting time and time again. It's just everything I love a movie to be.
Yes, it's funnily we got in late. We were way late, and we were 5 minutes late, and we sat down and went, okay, what's happening? And within a minute, it just didn't matter, because for the stuff that we didn't know, you could figure out through inference. But it's such an exciting thriller and an incredibly addictive romance.
Really
potential romance.
Funny. And when watching when he's watching her and she knows it, and it's just this sort of cat and mouse thing going on. It is Hitchcockian, it's this
100%
femme fatale kind of thing going on. It's just gorgeous, but up to date. It feels so modern.
Yes.
Oh, that's the other thing. The use of technology is so unique. Like, filmmakers are terrified of using mobile phones in modern filmmaking, but Park Chan-wook shows you that you can do this in such a way that is cinematic.
Yes, and not alienating.
Yes.
It is effortless, as you said. It's so effortlessly charming as well. Like the raw attraction that radiates off the leads is palpable, and added to the attention to detail and the exactitude of every moment, it manages to make these trivial actions like clearing up takeout sushi feel more intimate than lovemaking. There's something about it which is so evocative. It's incredible. And as well as it being effortless, those set pieces which are masterful, whether it's the stairs or the chasing that criminal, the way the camera takes us around.
Chases. There are 2 chases of a criminal, and both are just
both of them are so
involving.
fucking great, and the first one is incredibly fucking cool.
The knife fight
with the chainmail fist.
Yes.
God, it's so cool. I think I laughed at that point because I was just so wowed at how great and fucking cool that was.
Yeah.
But Park Chan-wook feels like, and this movie is the greatest example of this, is the sort of filmmaker who shows when he's doing something brilliant, but it doesn't even spoil the illusion. Like, I feel like I know exactly how he did it and how it works. But it's like, Darren Brown telling you how he did something. It's like, well, you're still a genius, but I wouldn't be able to do this. It makes it no less incredible and no less profoundly unknowable how he can achieve this.
Yeah, it's like a hyper-mediated experience. It just doesn't even matter that you're aware of the fact that there is this act of mediation between you and the subject. You're just absolutely in awe of it.
An unbelievable film. Incredible. So good.
살인은 흡연과 같아서 처음만 어렵다.
Right, we are over time. Let us very quickly, one sentence each, do our honourable mentions before we get into our number ones. Let us run through 30 through 11.
Cool.
And you start number 30.
Right, my number 30 is Weird, the Al Yankovic story. Directed by Eric Apple, Weird Al's lovely spoof biopic that hits the perfect notes of silliness, and Daniel Radcliffe demonstrates that he has perfect comedic timing.
My number 30 is Pearl. Mia Goth returns as the character of Pearl in Ty West's horror prequel that is utterly haunting, including a final image that will stay with me, I think, for the rest of my days, and will make me a permanent Mia Goth fan.
Perfect. Anything to replace that image of me that you've got. Number 29 for me, Luca Guadagnino's Bones and All. His young cannibal, his Bones and All, a young cannibal love story starring Timothée Chalamet and Taylor Russell, featuring massively unsettling performances from Mark Rylance and Michael Stuhlbarg. Moody, impressive body horror, general gross aesthetic that will stick in the mind for days.
God, yeah. Cheese with a $sign instead of an S. This is the Trinidad and Tobagoan. It's from Trinidad and Tobago, and it's just an incredible movie about a drug deal. Well, about a man who decides that he can get rich by smuggling drugs out through cheese. It's incredibly funny, really interesting. But the thing that really stands out is the dialogue, which is just fantastic and really gives a great impression of the language.
Excellent. 28. Nope. Nope. Jordan Peele's latest is visually perfect and thematically subtly layered. Keeps you wondering and questioning all the whilst watching a thoroughly entertaining sci-fi horror mystery with plenty of what on earth is happening moments.
Absolutely. My number 28, Nope. Jordan Peele's just utterly fantastic. Big scale horror movie, which just has all these set pieces that really just wowed me.
Yes.
And it just a tremendous capacity for the eerie. It really is quite fascinating.
Yes. So inventive. Number 27, Dog. Directed by Reed Carolyn and Channing Tatum, also starring Tatum. Two PTSD-affected Army Rangers, one of whom is a dog, takes a road trip to a fellow soldier's funeral, and they learn to process grief along the way. It was surprisingly resonant, emotional moments, earned its place in my top 30.
Yeah, absolutely. My number 27 is RRR, Rise, Revolt, Other Thing.
Yeah.
Just an absolutely stunning and incredible action film that just doesn't hold anything back.
Yeah.
Is one of the most bizarre and spectacular things you'll see all year, with just some of the most memorable sequences, including a dance number that I will probably rewatch on YouTube once or twice a week for the next coming months.
And I have done. Number 26, The Whale. Darren Aronofsky's directed. Brendan Fraser earned his Oscar as this reclusive and morbidly obese English teacher in the latter stages of a grief that risks killing him before he can reunite with his estranged daughter. Both Fraser and Hong Chow give incredible performances that ooze charm and compassion and lift the movie beyond its execution.
26, Suzumi, Makoto Shinkai's latest film, just really staggeringly beautiful. I wanted to live in that world forever. It was much funnier than I expected it to be. Incredibly endearing and poignant.
I'm going to be including this in next year's list because
I
haven't been able to see it until tomorrow.
Fair. I shall also be including A Turtle Daughter in next year's list.
Okay, excellent.
I imagine.
Yeah. 25, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Nick Cage given homage and a chance to shine as Nick Cage in this Tom Gornican-directed part character study, part crime thriller, and he and Pedro Pascal chime so sweetly together.
Absolutely. Speaking of chiming sweetly together, it's Tom Cruise in cinema. Number 25, Top Gun Maverick. Big scale action movie, summer blockbuster that we all needed. Really just blows you away and makes you wonder again why all blockbuster movies aren't held to the same level of just sheer accomplishment of bold, spectacular visuals.
And verisimilitude.
Even if it is propaganda.
Yeah. Got to get the enemy. Number 24, RRR. Massive, overblown, sprawling Indian epic directed by S.S. Rajamouli. It's fun and silly, one of the greatest musical numbers of all time. Oscar-winning, no less. Lovable characters and ruthless stakes. Can't emphasize enough how fun this was.
God, they're lovable. How lovable can you make a man just by putting a great mustache on him? A lot, it turns out.
That's what I'm trying. It hasn't worked yet.
It's going to get there. 24, Matilda, the musical. A really endearing rendition of the stage musical. The songs are so good, the performances are so good, including quite a few sort of British legends hidden around the place, and it just has a wonderful little spirit of rebellion.
Fantastic. Number 23, 3,000 Years of Longing. George Miller brings this singular and hypnotic tale based on an A.S. Byatt short story. Visual and thematic fingers firmly in Middle Eastern folktale pie, starring Tilda Swinton and Idris Elba in an unexpectedly delicious pairing. And the movie is good enough, is perfect enough that even with that ending that we discussed earlier, it belongs in the top 30 for me.
No, very close for me as well. Swinton was fantastic, as was Elba.
As was Elba.
23, The Wonder. Florence Pugh goes out in order to investigate a girl who apparently isn't eating. Gorgeously filmed. Sebastian Lelio, who previously did A Fantastic Woman, a really earnest, sort of character-driven period thriller that, keeps you really concerned. And is also just such an eloquent metaphor for the ways in which vulnerable people are failed by any society.
Yes. Number 22, The Northman shows you how vulnerable people are betrayed by any society. Robert Eggers brings us another brutal tale, this time of Viking revenge, delivering something that's visually and viscerally satisfying with quite the ensemble cast, the cinematic equivalent of an angry naked Viking banging on a drum with a skull.
Number 22, You Will Not Be Alone. I've covered it!
Mate. All right.
Mate.
Number 21, The Road Dance. Very poetic, romantic cinematography, tale of a Scottish island, people being sent off to war, and a woman is... Yes, the proceedings the night before marred by the rape of the central character and her dealing with it, and it's very, very bold and confronting at times, and managed to also take a lot of beauty from the surrounding areas.
Absolutely. Yes. My number 21, One Fine Morning. Mia Hansen-Love's new film is just all about familial love and romantic love and how they contrast against each other, and is also just really well observed with lots of very sweet character moments. It's just about Leia Sado's character dealing with her sick father and a burgeoning love affair, and how the two things have her in different frames of mind.
Lovely. Number 20, The Wonder, What Paul Said.
Number 20, Good Luck to You, Leo Grande. Very charming sort of film that just, is really sex positive. Great performances from its two leads. Yeah. Incredible little contained story.
Cool. Number 19, Glass Onion. Rian Johnson's latest Knives Out installment is irreverent, intelligent, and acerbic with its subject matter and depiction of contemporary pop culture. Brilliantly fun, infinitely watchable.
Absolutely. As we go into these last 10, I'm going to try and reduce it even further. Number 19, The Northman. It's really good. Fighty men in it. Very excellent.
Yeah, woo!
I'm going to go for the Doge approach now.
Perfect.
No, just an incredible rendered world. Really exciting action kind of a thriller thing with lots of moody atmosphere to it.
Excellent. Number 18, The Woman King. Fighty women do things big. Director Gina Prince Bythewood delivers a visually impressive historical epic centered around the Agoji, the all-female warrior unit protecting the kingdom of Dahomey in the midst of European colonialism.
Yeah. Number 18, Everything Everywhere All at Once. The Daniels presents a film that is, incredibly expressive, very imaginative, and just incredibly exhilarating, and really deserved its trajectory from little indie hit to big success.
Oh, sure did. Number 17, EO. Not even a theatre full of Easter holiday cinema goers could spoil this marvel of circus-performing donkey EO's journey following separation from his owner, travelling across a bleak and unforgiving Europe that shines a cold, existential, and ridiculing light on human endeavours.
Absolutely. Number 17, The Quiet Girl. Covered it.
Sucker! Number 16, Triangle of Sadness. Ruben Ostlund's vicious eat the rich and chew up systems of power satire, which is so thrillingly gratifying and darkly hilarious. Feels like getting slapped about a bit in the best way possible. From a friend, maybe.
Ah, charming.
Yeah.
Number 16, Joyland. Movie that should be up for Best Picture, for Best Foreign Picture, but isn't because of horrible reasons. A story about a man who goes to get work as a backing dancer and ends up falling in love with the trans lead performer. Really beautiful film to come out of Pakistan. It just absolutely a testament to the incredible things that are happening in Middle Eastern cinema at the moment, and a very visually striking and poignant love story.
Brilliant. Number 15, Fire of Love. Directed by Sarah Dosa, narration Miranda July, singular documentary on volcanologist couple Katya and Maurice Craft's unparalleled volcanic passion for their craft, told with existing footage shot by the couple that is truly breathtaking, always beautiful, even in tragedy.
Number 15 is Bones and All. Luca Guadagnino continues his just incredible run of movies in a story that feels so iconic in its way of sort of showing rural America and the lost souls at the heart of it. It got a beautiful mythology to it, and I just really adored the love story.
Cool. Number 14, Navalny, directed by Daniel Roher, Oscar-winning, astonishing political documentary about the attempted assassination of Alexei Navalny, the credible opposition to Vladimir Putin.
Good stuff. Number 14, The Glass Onion. Yes, Rian Johnson offers more twists and thrills in a movie that is just so promising in terms of where this franchise might head, in terms of intelligent thrillers that have something to say, and once again see a woman sort of who has everything stacked against her turn the odds around and end up on top. And it's just, a really excellent franchise, and everybody in it's great.
So happy that it exists. Number 13, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Director Dean Fleischer-Camp, Jenny Slate as the titular Marcel, are just profoundly beautiful. Extremely funny and inventive visually movie that spawned from a YouTube short, which was the same as the things I just said. It was truly wonderful. One of those things that changed my life very positively.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Number 13, EO. This is Jerzy Skolimevsky's incredible film about a riff on Oh Hazard Balthazar. A donkey sort of sets forth into the world and experiences all sorts of eccentric people and unusual things. A kind of twisty, exciting exploration of humanity and how that can be reflected through the experiences of a little donkey.
Lovely. Number 12, All Quiet on the Western Front, directed by Edward Berger. Stunning World War I epic from the German perspective that feels all the more relevant today, and a score by Volker Bertelmann that couldn't sound more like the inevitability of the war machine and death if it bloody tried.
Yeah. Absolutely. Number 12, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Just a really charming comedy movie that is incredibly... Oh, God, I said incredibly and imaginatively a lot tonight.
It happens. A lot of incredibly imaginative films.
They really are, and that's something that really resonates with me. And Marcel the Shell with Shoes On is just so heartfelt and so poignant and such a clever little idea and so endearing and involving. And that's what you're going to get. Wait, what about number 11?
Yeah, you cucks.
If you want to find out what our number 11s are, two very interesting films that may slip you by if you don't find out what they are. Yeah, come along to the Patreon space to experience those.
Yeah, cost you $1.
Yeah. It'll cost you $1 to find out what our number 11s are, and they will be they're even better than our number 1s, both of them. So
yeah, actually,
so get in there, find out what those are, and we're also going to talk about some other experiences of the year. But never mind that.
Yes,
because now we're going to discuss our number 1 favorite movies this year. Yes, Paul, what's your number 1?
Well, to anybody who's listened to the Godzilla episode of One Good Thing, they'll know that my favourite film was probably going to always be Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Now, you may only see a pile of receipts, but I see a story. I can see where this story is going. It does not look good.
Directed by the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. I did have a feeling this was going to be special to me from the moment I learned about the movie and its premise. And then I saw the trailer, or in fact, when I saw the thumbnail for the trailer, I had this feeling, and it just increased every single extra bit of media I saw before going into the movie. And I wasn't wrong. It promised a film that was going to be ambitious and exciting. It wasn't afraid to lean into genre, but was bursting with compassion and empathy and introspection and reflection and realization and growth and that's exactly what it was. More so with every rewatch. I feel like I cry 7% more every time I watch this movie. Michelle Yeoh and Ki-hye Kwan are married with a daughter played by Stephanie Hsu, and they run a laundromat, a struggling business. And Yeoh's dad is a struggling business, and Yeoh's dad is waking up soon, and they have to file a tax return. And this situation is 100 open tabs the life, down to switching in and out of Mandarin as they wend their way through chaos, this family chaos life. But when things really start going wrong at the IRS, Michelle, the agent played very, very humorously by Jamie Lee Curtis, Michelle Yeoh is suddenly told that she has the power to cross the multiverse and is the only person who can stop the rupturing of reality that is being threatened by Jobu Tupaki. Oh, Joju. Anyway. Jobu Tupaki. And fortunately for once, I don't need to follow that up with a series of reassurances that this is better than it sounds. This is probably the first favorite movie of the year that also won the Best Film Oscar. Yeah, the Oscar for Best Film. And I don't even feel like a sellout for it. It's great. What I love about this movie is that it isn't just a really sweetly observed story about familial ties and compassion. See my running theme. But it's a zany sci-fi movie that's not afraid to be crude, dumb, and just plain weird. And any weirdness that I felt for it ending up winning the Best Film Oscar is more than made up by the fact that it features scenes in which a guy leaps pantsless onto a makeshift dildo in order to gain verse-hopping powers. But in terms of the emotional offerings of the movie, I mean, like it's multi-layered, and the crazy sci-fi concepts and the big silly jokes kind of give you the structure in which this movie can stretch its emotional, therapeutic legs, and it really does fill that space in so many incredible ways. It's multi-layered, like therapy. Weirdly, it leads firstly to one level of realization in Michelle Yeoh, and then it stops and it peels back everything that you've learned in order to go deeper. And it does this a few times until one of the most cathartic resolutions put to screen is in front of you, and it gets more tragic, more bittersweet with every single watch as you just learn more about the cycle that they've been trapped in, mother and daughter, for the longest time, and husband and wife. And it's no coincidence that so many movies in my top 30 this year, my favorite ones, touch on family. A lot of intelligent movies have been made with intelligent and varied perspectives, and this one, it means more to me with every watch. It feels more relevant and more resonant, and like an action movie country hopping from glamorous location to location. I feel in the fantastical multiverse, all these multi-realities, you know, you have hot dog fingers, slapstick and nihilism back to back with martial arts and Wong Kar-wai sensibilities at times. It pulls all these different parts of me that have, you know, like loves for specific things, and pulls them all together, and it really does make that emotional resolution feels so much more real and so better earned. It's like I feel like I'm the only way I'm going to be able to fully get across how I feel about this is if I were to write and record an essay for everybody, because I'm just skirting around the main themes, but I need to talk about the central performances because they're remarkable. Michelle Yeoh, Ki-hye Kwan, and Stephanie Hsu are perfect. They're able to convey all the frustration and heartbreak of family life and what they do to cope. Ki-hye Kwan stuffs his performance with various shades of compassion and optimism that are mostly indescribable but essential. And his big scene where he talks about the strength that there is in that is thoroughly heartbreaking. Michelle Yeoh's love for her daughter, but complete and utter inability to communicate with her, and even to understand what it is that's lacking from their relationship and life, to the extent that she fails to remember consistently the name of the so-called evil that she believes possesses her daughter. It just says so much, and on what completely different wavelengths, like planes of existence they exist. Planes of existence they exist. You can quote that. And then finally, Stephanie Hsu, whose performance is devastating. I really think she deserved the Oscar for in place of Jamie Lee Curtis, but so did a few people.
Yeah, I think so.
I love Jamie Lee Curtis in it, but it's a different level of performance, and what it says. The absolute defeat that she feels, just crushed under the weight of her mother, who is obviously trying to help, but just does not understand the repercussions of her own actions. And Stephanie Hsu plays this desperate, helpless child who's just so willing to give up. It makes every moment of happiness and release so well earned and so much more meaningful because of it. Ultimately, this movie bursts with heart and forgiveness and compassion and patience and hot dog fingers and dildos, and I love it so fucking much, Paul.
Don't let anything distract you from it.
No, it's really good fun, and it's really heartening actually its success, because for being not only a non-franchise sort of movie, but one that is so eccentric and strange, and yet manages such a sort of audience-pleasing feel using its humor and its action. It's been able to get people in and achieve such tremendous success. It will hopefully lead to people taking many more risks. You know, you always hope this. You always hope these lessons will go down well. You know, but so far, I mean, A24 just seem to be all over this, because you know, they're just picking up things, and there's already big weight. There's a lot being said about Beau is Afraid, Ari Aster's new film. But yeah, it's only a good thing if this emboldens A24 to make stranger, more unusual films.
Absolutely.
From eccentric filmmakers. So it's good stuff.
All right, Paul. Tell us about your number one, please.
My number one is After Sun.
I love you.
Love you.
Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Dad, you know, they're like kids. Why don't you go over and introduce yourself?
Sophie, they're like old.
My number 5.
Indeed. 3 names. First, Charlotte Wells. This is her first film, writing and directing this. She's going to be momentous. She has cited Lynn Ramsey as an influence, particularly Ratcatcher and Gasman, her 2 early films. Fantastic. And she definitely earns the place alongside one of the greatest living filmmakers, you know, working at the moment with this film. She was inspired to make the film after finding pictures of her father from her childhood holidays, and was struck by how young he was, a similar age to her now, sort of at the point when she was looking. She felt that she finally saw him, not just as a father, but as a person in these pictures, and so wanted to try and make a movie as a sort of act of mediation between her and her father. Second name, Paul Mescal.
Yeah.
Plays a single father who takes his 11-year-old daughter on a holiday to Turkey. He's struggling. He's struggling with getting old, something he didn't really think that he would ever do. He's got a few heartbreaks and disappointments behind him, some quite recent, and he's struggling with some form of addiction. There are hints at a chaotic past that threatens to envelop him again, and it is never told to us within the film that he is no longer with us, but there's a sense. At the very least, this version of him is forever out of reach and only explorable through memory. And the sort of remnants of that time now. And then the third name is Frankie Corio.
Oh, God, yeah.
The young actor playing Sophie. She's on the cusp. She's leaving childhood. She's already discovering things about herself that are going to lead inexorably to the adult that is forever peering from just outside of the frame at all of this.
Yeah.
We're always very aware of the fact that this is somebody looking back. And it reminds you of that. And we see the action often play out in these pixely old digital cameras that kind of put things into the context that we need. Together, the 3 have created one of the absolute most visceral impressions of a father-child relationship ever seen on screen. Mescal goes from protective father persona that he's desperately trying to exude with confidence to the real shattered man. With just natural skill, moving just so effortlessly between the heartbreak and the need to keep it together for his daughter when he can, and yet also the frustration that he often feels as a result.
Yeah.
Choreo is impossibly charming for her age. She's so charismatic, and has this sort of tragic demeanor of someone who has learned how to handle her father and has built up some of the resilience that she needs to withstand him at his worst already. The moment where she comes home and covers him with the blanket as he's passed out naked on the bed is just very, very quietly devastating for everything that implies about what their lives have been like up to this point.
Yeah.
There are some truly heartbreaking sequences. Sophie singing on her own and what her father says after that and how she decides to defend herself from that. The carpet shop, the scuba diving. There's a visual poetry to the film throughout that just feels incredibly well observed and so adventurous in how it's going to communicate what it needs to you. One of the reasons that this may have struck me so hard this year is that I did lose my father 2 years ago, and when he died, he was actually exactly twice my age. I was half the age he was when he died.
Right.
That only happens to you once in your lifetime, and it's the year you turn the age that your parent was when they had you.
Yeah.
So he stepped out of my life the same age he was when I stepped into his. And it felt like a weird missed connection. A chance to see eye to eye that's just not going to happen now. And with this film, Charlotte Wells is attempting to look her father in the eye and see him as a man and not just a figure from her life. And the film is just wrapped up in all the sorrow that doing that actually involves. Obviously, the most devastating scene being when she rallies all of the fellow tourists to sing to him on his birthday, and we just fade from an image of him set against a blue sky to him in his bedside. It's incredibly brutal as a moment, and it's very hard to maintain composure whilst watching that particular sequence. But in spite of all of that, it does offer some form of escapism. Firstly, I find Wells' style to be thrilling. I love how she uses her camera, and the overall structure of the film is so flawless in the way it mimics memory, but without abstraction, like over too much abstraction. Obviously, there's a hell of a sequence near the end involving a dance to I believe a David Bowie track, that is just stunning. And just as I said with Park Chan-wook, you know, who is a director of 40 years of experience, Wells in her first film is entirely without affectation.
Yeah.
This feels new and exciting and entirely underivative.
Yes.
And then secondly, the subject, because this is a holiday in the sun in the 90s, the exact same time I would go on holiday with my family. And beyond the pathos, she does capture the feel of that time. You know, they're in Turkey, but frankly, it doesn't really matter. They spend all of their time in a resort doing tourist stuff, so they could be anywhere hot.
That's it.
And although, you know, me and my family, we never went to Turkey, but I see a lot of my own holidays in this film, which includes all the little arguments and moments of sadness that you choose to forget.
Yeah.
It's just an absolutely stunning film in terms of exploring memory and exploring childhood and parenthood and so much, and just every single part of it you could push through and find even more behind it.
Yeah.
But at the heart of it is just a relationship between a father and a daughter that is temporary, incredibly meaningful, but impermanent. And that just makes it painfully beautiful.
Wish we could have stayed for longer.
Me too.
Knowing this was going to be high on your list, I assumed that you would cover most of the things I was going to say. And yeah, you pretty much did. It was a difficult watch for me.
Sure.
Being able to relate to both father and daughter, really, you know.
Yeah.
It kind of tells two parts of the same story of a life. Two parts of a story of the same life, almost. It just feels everything feels so deeply connected. So much melancholy, longing, and regret, and as you say, so much Britishness in there, for the love of God. I could have watched this with my eyes closed and imagined the exact same fucking resort. With all of the existential pain that brings me now. But you know, I also laughed along sympathetically to very English-looking, serious children staring longingly or mournfully at one another, or to, you know, the pissed-up teenagers and the broad, sweeping resort entertainment at the same time. Paul Mescal and Frankie Corio are perfect. I could watch them all day together, just walking around talking about their food and poops and that. And the cinematography and directing is so surprising and innovative in these delightful little ways. Yeah, like staging a scene for us to look at in the reflection of a TV screen with a stack of books next to it on meditation and Buddhism and mental health. And then those abstract spaces that you've mentioned, those pure poetry on screen. It's similarly to Tar. I find myself revisiting moments in this movie with such wonder and finding the harder I think on them and the deeper I try and look into them, it just opens up so many more avenues I could travel down. It's a truly remarkable movie that brings a tear to my eye just thinking about it, and it just chills me in the most compassionate way possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the liminal space in which she positions her father, sort of forever dancing in this sort of mad disco.
Gurning and sweating.
And then, and then the sequence in which she imagines herself as an adult trying to break through this sort of barrier of chaos to actually reach him. It's so frustrating because you just get the sense that the time in which she could have really meaningfully connected with him was the time when she was a child and was actually just already starting to pull away from him. Yeah. And, just brutal. It really is. So much truth about parental relationships in there. Well, there you go.
There you bloody go.
That's that.
Yeah.
There you bloody go. And I think it's about time, more than about time, we check in with the OG team.
Oh my god. Okay.
Oh my god, Patry team. Yes, we're going to start with the Patry team.
Do it.
The pastry team, as I like to call them. We start with L. Scott Joes.
Hey, Liam.
Who says, although it's likely more due to what I saw than the year being overall strong or weak, out of the 40-odd releases I saw that were 2022 films or released in 2022 in Australia, there weren't many I thought were particularly good. Oh dear. The best ones in order for me would be, number 1, Deep Water.
Okay.
I'm not sure I know what that is.
Oh.
Number 2, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. Number 3, New York Ninja.
Okay.
And number 4, Bernadetta, which made my list last year.
Yes,
and is
same.
Paul Verhoeven's excellent film.
Yes.
I would recommend check some of the films we've named out because there's some really, really incredible films that were released.
I feel he'd like the horror movies. If you haven't seen Skinamarink or Ennis Main, I mean, definitely watch Skinamarink. I think that's right up your street.
Yeah, and you won't be alone. Just
yes. Yeah. God, yeah.
Yeah. Check these out. Okay, Mark Reed.
Hey, Mark Reed.
Hello, Pauls. Here's a top 5 for you, in no particular order.
What?
I'm going to read them in no particular order. No, I'm going to read them in order we wrote them.
Oh, that's nice.
Speak No Evil. One of those sorts of films that makes you feel bad at the end. I haven't heard of it, I don't think. But sounds great. Deadstream gives me Evil Dead vibes. Really enjoyed it and would recommend it to non-horror fans too. Interesting. Terrifier 2. Art the Clown returns in a sequel with an actual plot, amazing and brutal practical effects, particularly a success story in the horror genre. Well, I guess this guy's a little bit horror obsessed. It sounds to me like he might want to branch out. Oh, he's listed our 2 favorite films. After Sun. Oh, this movie hurts me. Just a very real, very sad time. And Everything Everywhere All at Once. How can 2 talking rocks make you cry? Well, that's us.
Well, exactly.
Heard and spoken for.
That also very much sums up our relationship. How can these 2 talking rocks make anybody feel anything?
I agree.
Sir.
Thank you very much.
Nice one.
Mark.
Thank you.
Right, moving on to Facebook. We've got Ellen Graham saying, Jamie Hornsby, I know yours was Scream 6. A confusing statement because Scream 6 came out this year. Jamie replies with a gif of Neve Campbell and Courtney Cox saying, sounds about right. And then Scream 6 was this year, filthy casual. Scream 5, though. So I don't know where to stand. If this is Ellen ribbing on Jamie for liking Scream 5, then get him.
Yeah.
But if this is her ribbing Jamie for liking Scream 6, then no.
Get her.
No. Get her. Everybody get her. So I don't know. Please apply that as needed.
Just get them both.
Get them both. Play it safe. Karma Duffield says, The Menu. Very good. Honorable mention.
Ooh, fantastic.
We enjoyed it.
Yes.
Nathaniel DeBell puts a YouTube video, actually, that I should have watched beforehand, a poster compilation of some of the things he saw in 2022, which looks like it also includes an awful lot of films that weren't released this year. But wow, there's some really good stuff in there. So check out our Facebook and look for that comment. I just saw David Lynch's Dune, so that's in there.
Super.
Along with a lot of other things. Right, Twitter. Skyver. Oh, get back to work, you. Says, The Batman. That's really interesting. I've been meaning to rewatch The Batman, and I know it's getting an IMAX re-release over here in the UK
cool.
because I saw it. I wasn't very impressed by it, but I only saw it once, and it was during a busy time, so I'd like to see it again.
I did really like it.
Okay.
That should have been in my honourable mentions as well, actually. It's just beneath Velvet Queen.
Right.
Yeah, I thought it had a lot of... a lot worth praising. Visually unique and just a good solid mood in there.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Janelle.
Nell
Healed says,
tell me
EAO hit all the right notes for me.
Yeah.
It made me laugh, and its deeply emotional story made me cry. It was the first 2022 film I saw, and it never moved out of the top spot. After Sun needs a mention as well. It's a devastatingly honest film, and it made me cry for a long time after it had ended. Very true, it did.
I can assume. But yeah, it did. And there was a cathartic beer had after the film.
Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Well, Jen says,
EAO.
Love that film.
Yeah.
But also a big shout out for Joyland, which should have been allowed to compete at the Oscars and be seen by more people, but in the end was censored by conservative dumbwits in its home country. Everyone go watch Joyland. Absolutely you should. It is the only act of rebellion that really counts right now, is you watching Joyland.
So that's why it wasn't given a cinematic release or something.
Conservatives just censored it. Which is such a shame, because when we saw it, the director was there and he was saying that actually, surprisingly, it was going to get a general release in Pakistan, and it was looking really positive, but then, unfortunately, it all fell through. Finally, Matthew Whitaker, the old boss over at Screen Mayhem, got in touch, and he posted a single image, and I do believe that is a screenshot from X, which is Ty West's film, because he made both X and Pearl within the same year.
Yes, okay.
Yes, he got them both out. I preferred Pearl, but X was extremely good as well. Extremely good?
What?
Oh, and he's going to make a third movie called Maxine. So, look out for that.
So watch out, Maxine. I did wonder. I saw that picture on the Twitter, and neither Janelle or I could figure out what it was.
Look at Mia Goth there.
Yeah,
love her. I'm very fond of Mia Goth now. I need to see Infinity Pool. That is also apparently quite good.
Oh,
right.
Yes, loving your Brandon.
Yeah, lovely Brando. Now, let's very quickly finish this off by having a look at the highest grossing films of all time. This is our longest non-Halloween episode right now.
Okay.
So, looking at the list, you've got the usual thing. You've got a couple of Chinese films that I don't know anything about. Actually, is it just one? Yes, it is. The Battle at Lake Changjing 2.
Okay.
The first of which was like the highest grossing film of 2020.
Oh, I remember. I remember that coming up, I think, in our 2020 episode.
Because China was the only place people could go to the cinema.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a few superhero movies in there. I think, yes, all 3 Marvel movies, of course, made the list. But that's it. None of the other studios got a superhero movie into the top 10, which is interesting. And there's every chance, what with the flop of, the Ant-Man and Wasp thing, that this year will be the first year in which Marvel didn't get all of its movies into the top 10.
Wow.
Which interesting thing that'll be.
Which 3 is that?
So, that is Thor Love and Thunder, which came at 8.
Oh, yeah.
And weirdly, I think they're in quality order for me. Yeah. So at 8, Thor Love and Thunder, Thor. At number 6, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
And number 4, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, I haven't actually seen Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. I wasn't
it was okay.
Biggest fan of the first, and I'm Marvel fatigued.
I loved the first.
I know.
So it was a little disappointing.
Oh, okay.
But hey.
But
sorry, there is another superhero movie here. The Batman is at number 7.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, that's fun.
Elsewhere, sorry.
No, Doctor Strange. The second half of that movie, when it fully got into its Sam Raimi sensibilities, was really fun.
I enjoyed Doctor Strange, I must say. Number 10 is Puss in Boots: The Last Witch, which is great fun.
Oh, okay.
Then you've got Battle of Lake Changjin, then Thor, then Batman, then Black Panther, Minions: The Rise of Gru. God damn it. God, Illumination Studios make a lot of money. They just made the Mario movie.
Oh, God.
I know. I hate everything. The top 3 is interesting because the top 3 is all non-superhero. Number 3 is Jurassic World Dominion, you shall hear more about shortly.
Yes.
Number 2 is Top Gun Maverick. That's great.
Good.
I'm so happy about that. And number 1 is Avatar: The Way of Water, which, regardless of my feelings about, check out Jen the Film Critic for that. It's just so great that the top 2 movies are their franchise, of course, but they are such purely cinematic experiences.
Yes.
That are non-superhero related.
That is cool.
As is the third. And it's great that, these movies really brought people in.
Top Gun Maverick was a really enjoyable experience.
I loved it at the IMAX.
I can imagine. It's just incredible, and it's just such a testament to why you should put in the work with action movies and
put in the work.
Just get it as real as you possibly can. Not every movie is going to have Tom Cruise or Keanu Reeves to do a whole bunch of the stuff, but you have to.
They're both getting old.
Yeah. They're trying not to, and we're doing everything we can to stop that. But for the love of God, it just if you can put people up in a plane, do it. Even
do it. You absolute cowards.
Yeah, you absolute cowards. There we go. Oh, that's a reference to before we were recording yesterday. Never mind.
Love it. And here we are. The end of 2022, here in April 2023. And I feel good about it. I think we're finally ready to move on and deal with the sheer crushing reality of how many great films have already come out this year.
Okay, give me a sec. Oh, fuck! Why, Mum?
Nicely done, mate. Once you've gotten over that, tell people how they can find out about One Good Thing.
Okay. Well, you can find us.
Yep. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. This hurts.
I'm in so much pain.
Well, you can do so at Twitter and Facebook at OGTPod, where you should keep an eye out for calls to the OG team, where you can tell us the good things about all the movies that we watch. You can send us an email at ogtpod@gmail.com. And if you are a big fan of our voices and faces, and the many other voices and faces that appear facelessly on this podcast, then consider becoming a patron, where for as little as $1 a month, you get access to hundreds and hundreds and millions of hours of extra content, special film reviews, and random film content generation, by which I mean we do it with our brains. And this coming week will be us talking about our number 11s, which you won't want to miss.
Yeah.
Because we we actually care about this one.
Oh yeah, this is the good one.
Yeah, promise.
I'm Paul Goodwin.
No, I'm Paul the Good One.
And remember, the one good thing about 2022 is that people cared more about the little blue people than the little flying people. Oh, some of the blue people can fly.